try to serve my tea. Cause I'm a stone jack baller and my heart is true, and I give everything that I got for you. Yes, I will.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Nonconformity Live, Thursday edition. Celtic Rebel joins us for the show today. And, we're getting into Jesus here, the crucifixion, the symbology of the Lion's Gate, the Rosy Cross, all of it, because it's important to understand. Because, folks, you've been programmed through this so-called truth movement, through Zeitgeist and all this other garbage that was given, that was intentionally put out to get you off the path, man. And if you think outside of this very narrow path that the truth movement has, I mean, the truth movement is just as ridiculous as some of these radical organized churches that you can't think outside the box. And if you do, you're persecuted and you're crazy. I love it.
Yeah, the two sides of the dialectic, right? You know, again, they're presented to you by the same people that hate this man, that hated this man. You know, I've watched one of these, what I'm, in my interpretation, based on, my programming that I've come through, right? Because I hear this guy and he's going, it's one of these very Christian-based truthers. And he's going, look, what I'm trying to say is that the biggest threat that exists to these people is the Jesus Christ. This man still presents such a threat to them, or they wouldn't have made this movie Zeitgeist, etc. And while I'm disagreeing with him, I actually agree with his point, because when he's speaking of the Jesus, he's speaking of the Jesus that he learned through the church, right?
Right.
And we keep getting this, and then they're very good at crafting this. On one hand, you got Satan, right? This is satanic Illuminati conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
Which is a bunch of crap, because Satan doesn't exist. And of course they're saying, well, Satan's greatest trick was proving to the world he doesn't exist. Oh, okay, well now how do I defeat that logic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't beat that one.
And that is another thing that's important to understand. You're talking about Satan. Well, guess what? Lucifer didn't even exist in the early versions of the Christian scriptures, the Greek or whatever, which predates the King James Version. That was actually added by King James, who was a pedophile, a pederast, and he had sex with his mother. He was a terrible person. He's the first one that initiated the term Lucifer into Jeremiah. Okay? So that didn't even exist until the King James Version.
Yeah, and I'll say this. If Satan was actually real and he was running the world right now, how could it be any worse than it is right now?
Right.
I will argue that Satan is in charge of the world, and that the satanic cults are actually these Jehovian anti-Jesus cults.
Yep.
I know a lot of Christians are going to have a hard time wrapping their mind around that, but look, what was Jesus' basic message, which is, again, it actually could apply very well to the truth movement itself, because the truth movement is like, look, we're studying conspiracies about the Illuminati and Freemasons and all this other crap, right? I'm saying that Freemasons don't exist. I'm saying these world control parables as dictated by the early people in the truth industry, which have now been carried forth and are being repeated by the truth movement, are a bunch of BS.
Right.
Jesus' basic message was work on yourself, and then the world will change around you. And which is my message. And I'm not drawing a parallel here, but I'm saying that's the message. You can't fight the system. To fight the empire is to serve the empire, as Eugene so frequently says.
Absolutely.
I look at Jesus, and the one thing, was, okay, this is kind of what we're getting to, is why is this Christ attached to him? Why do they call him the Christ, right?
Yeah,
it never made sense to
his real last name. He was Jesus from Nazareth, because back then it was your first name in the town you were from. The Christ is a concept meaning anointed, which predates Jesus in the first place.
Yeah, or actually, if you look at it from the Greek, Christ is Christos, which could mean gold, which actually might serve another example, but it also could mean the cross.
Right.
So, why would you name yourself Jesus of the Cross? Is that a self-fulfilling destiny? No, that's a bunch of BS that had nothing to do with it. But you're right. He was Jesus of Nazareth, and he was an Essene.
Absolutely.
Which would suggest he was a vegetarian.
Yes.
So, a lot of the Christians out there the people who put forth, this whole practice of animal sacrifice and all that comes right out of the Talmud. And that was incorporated into the Catholic Church by those who followed such teachings. So if you're a Christian and you're not a vegetarian, you're a carnivore, you're a hypocrite.
Absolutely. I agree. And they don't want you to know that, because even when you murder now for food, you're still, in a way, doing the sacrifice, the Talmudic sacrifice.
Exactly, especially in the mass scale that it's being done, with all this cruelty and suffering. It's a mass sacrifice, which basically you're partaking in because you don't know any better. You grew up accepting things and not questioning.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to Jesus' message. If you want to change the world, change yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the problem. You know what? And that's the message they don't want this movement to know, because you don't have to go to rallies and occupy Wall Street and do violent behavior and, bullhorn people. If all of us were to change ourselves from within in that manner, in the spiritual manner in which that really was taught, then this whole thing would collapse because we wouldn't participate in it, because it requires our participation. And that's what they don't want you to know. And that's the purpose of stuff like Zeitgeist, is to get you off the track and to keep you in the anger mode.
Yeah, I know a lot of Christians are worked up right now because, again, they've been taught this very narrow perspective of what Jesus was, based by the writings of the guys who killed him.